Hi folks, it's Kev here from Inspiring Games. Want to present to you a new Readiness and Surprise Aid on today's recording. And that's because the feedback we've been given from you is that you need help on combat and help on Readiness and Surprise. Hence why we've already done one video with the new combat aid, and this video here will concentrate on the Readiness and Surprise aid. With that in mind, I'm going to start this video showing you how it works using the existing, just a refresher using the existing readiness aid that you can see on the left there. We have our location, which is the cave mouth with our party token in it. The time is above, along with the location draw pile. And the first thing always is establish a marching order. So if there is one hero, that hero is always a scout. If there are two heroes, you would have a scout and a guard. And if there are three or more heroes, everybody who is not the scout or the guard remains in the centre. So in this case, we're going to make the farmhand the scout, the forge hand the guard, and the student becomes the centre. We now need to choose an exit. In this case, we could either go to the dark exit over on the bottom left. Dark being good for sneaking up on other creatures, on foes, but awful for finding traps and obstacles. Or we could use the ambient exit over on the right hand side, which gives you no real modifiers in either event for creatures or for traps. There is also a bright exit, but not shown in this room. Bright exits are great for looking and discovering traps before you trigger them, but rubbish for sneaking up on creatures. So in this case, we do need to select that exit, and we have decided that we are going to move towards the dark exit. So now that we have established a marching order and the choice of exit, the next thing we need to establish is whether we're going to sneak or not. So in the current rules, those are your two choices. You can either sneak or not sneak. And if we choose not to sneak, it costs one time, which is what I'm doing just now, moving one time. We get no modifier, no benefit on the dice roll. If we chose to sneak, we would spend an additional time, so 2 time, and we would get a +2 on the dice roll. But in this occasion, I am just going to keep it simple, and we're going to choose the dark exit because we're worried about foes for the illustration purposes, and we are not going to sneak. This here, this existing readiness tracker you've got, shows you where you will place your alert, bold or careless result after you've made the roll. For now though, what we'll do is we'll draw the new location card, and we're going to spin it around a bit just to make it into a nicer looking map. I'm going to place it, it's a little bit awkward in tabletop sim. I'm going to place it over the footsteps. There you go, that's me placed over the footsteps now, and we've got a nice dark corridor. Hopefully you can follow that there. I'm just going to rotate the token as well, just because it makes me feel it makes me feel happy. But now you can see we've got that dark corridor linking the cave mouth and the spinner layer. What we're going to do now is just establish the scouting difficulty value, which we can see from that track on the spinner layer. It's important that you take it from the room that you've walked into, and we're going to find the one for the dark exit, which is a 12, okay, because we've gone through a dark corridor, and so the corresponding difficulty value is 12. If you look at the other values here for bright 8 and ambient 10, had we approached that room from a bright or ambient exit, obviously the difficulty threshold is lower. So in this case, we're looking for a 12. Just going to grab the dice here, give them a quick roll, and we get a 6, 10, 13. So 13 against the 12 value we were looking for means that we have passed. Remember, we don't add a +2 because we didn't sneak, we just spent the one time. But there are no obstacles in the room, so we can move straight into the centre of the location. And we passed, and if you look at the existing chart just now, we did not beat it by 4 or more, we beat it by 1, which means we are in that middle column, bold, okay? But we didn't fail, we were not careless, so we're not in the right hand column. So we place the party token there, we don't have to worry about being careless. And we have now basically shown you how readiness works with the readiness aid that we have at the moment. The drawbacks, of course, though, are that we have not captured the fact whether you have sneaked or not, and therefore, when it comes to calculating surprise against any foes that one may fight, we think there are things that we can do. Let's introduce the new Readiness Surprise Aid. I'm just going to bring it over here so you can see it beside the existing one on the left. This achieves the same thing, but we think it does much more and will help you a lot when playing the game. So I'm just going to move the existing one over to the left, and now we have the new one. The Readiness Aid will instruct us to take the correct first step, which is to establish marching order. So what we need to do is pick a scout and a guard and have everyone else in the centre, just as we had it in the previous example. The Readiness Aid will now instruct us to select a pace, which is a new terminology we're introducing, but basically refers to the pace at which you are going to enter the location. And that is helped governed by one of these tokens. You'll see that I'm lifting just now, which I've moved over to the right. So in the core rules you've got just now, you can either sneak or not sneak. And we've tightened that up to give you three options. The first of which is called March, which you can see here where the hand is. And March assumes that you spend one time and gain no benefits for entering the location. However, you can also take a new option called Rush that we've introduced, and Rush basically means that you spend no time. You see Rush here, you spend no time, but you're on a -2 on checks. Or you can Sneak, which is exactly the same as it is just now, where you spend 2 time entering the new location and you get a +2 on scouting and surprise tests. Case to keep it consistent with the previous example, I'm going to remove the sneak token and assume that we march. We now need to select the brightness of the exit that we want to use. So the card assumes that you will use ambient just as your most frequent exit choice, and you can see ambient there on the location card. However, in this case, what we want to do is replicate what we did with the existing readiness card. So we're actually going to use the dark token. So you'll see here we've got a dark token there. We're just going to place the dark token, which you can also reverse to get the bright exit on it as well. So just to explain there how it works and the benefits it gives. But in this case we've chosen a dark exit, which gives a +2 to surprise test and a reminder that it is harder to scout into the dark. So we now know that we are marching into a dark exit, so it's time to draw the new location card. Flip it over. We will then rotate it accordingly so that we can match up our map with a dark exit, just as before, and we know that the scouting difficulty is a 12. We're just establishing that right there. Now I'm just going to grab the dice and move them over a bit, and just looking at the old Readiness Aid, all we knew is that we didn't know what our modifiers were other than we were sneaking, but right here it's very clear that we're bold, it's there are no modifiers for it, is the default on the card, okay? But we're now going to roll to see what we are, so we may replace that default on the card with, here we go to roll, 3, 6, 8, 8 against a 12. We did not sneak. Okay, we did not sneak. In the old card, we would move it there to the careless column, and that would define what we're doing. In this case, we just grab the careless token and place it. There we go, exactly there. And if we were alert, we would flip it over. But in this case, we're careless, and it's basically telling you that traps and booby traps are automatically triggered. So I'm now going to grab our party token and bring it into the location because there are no obstacles. So we don't, in this case, have to worry about the fact that we're careless. However, there is a foe. So we need to establish surprise. And that is part of the reason why I've selected this location card, but it's how the new the new aid improves on the old one. In the previous aid, we were trying to demonstrate what Alert Bold or Careless let you do, but feedback has been that we need to be more, give more aid to show people exactly what it means. So in this case, what we've tried to do is find a way of integrating it with the combat aid that we've shown you in a different video, and let's assume that we're actually going to fight some goblin drunks. So before we even get to that combat aid, we use the alertness rating on that foe, which is a 7. Okay, grab the foe here. So this is before we use the combat aid. And we just need to look at the card above us to actually establish what our modifiers are. So in this case, we march, there's no modifier. It is dark, so we've got a +2 on our surprise tests, and careless makes no difference to the surprise rating. So all we actually need to know is that we've got a +2. However, note if we had placed the sneak token, and this was key feedback we've had, is I can't remember if I've sneaked. If we'd placed the sneak, we'd have a +4. But in this case, we've only, in fact, got a +2. So we're going to take those dice, and we have a 6, 7, 8, plus the 2 from it being dark gives us a 10, and a 10 against that 7 means there is no surprise because we passed it, but we did not beat it by 4 or more. So in this case, we have to fight it, and we put the Goblin Drunk over in the combat aid right here. Note, if we had defeated it by 4 or more, we would grab the foe's surprised and place it on the combat aid, and it tells you exactly what you can do and whether you can in fact retreat as well if you've got surprise. So this is how we combine it into one aid for you. This token's obviously reversible as well, and if the heroes were surprised, then you would have to fight, and you would fight with disadvantage on all heroes, and all ranged creatures would gain advantage. And that, folks, is the new Readiness and Surprise Aid. Thank you.